All right, let's dive into a topic that honestly sounds like it's straight out of science fiction, but has very, very real consequences for our entire digital world. We're talking about the quantum threat to cybersecurity. We're going to break down what it is, why it matters right now, and most importantly, what you and your team can actually do to get ready.
So let's just start with a question that gets right to the heart of it. It feels like a riddle, doesn't it? How on earth can you protect your most valuable secrets from a technology that isn't even fully built? Well, as we're about to see, that future is a lot closer than you might think, and in a way, the threat is already here.
So here's our game plan. First, we're going to tackle the why now, this idea of a quantum countdown that's already started. Then we'll look at the seriously clever tactics adversaries are using today, a little something called harvest now, decrypt later. After that, we'll get into the massive challenge of what's called post-quantum migration before we finish up with a practical playbook you can actually start using. Okay, let's get into it. You know, it is so easy to dismiss quantum computing as this far-off thing, something that's maybe 5, 10, 20 years away. But here is the critical point that a lot of people miss. The clock on your data's security, it has already started ticking. So the bottom line is this. The moment a powerful enough quantum computer arrives, what experts are calling a cryptographically relevant quantum computer, or CRQC, we hit a moment known as Q-Day. And on that day, a machine will exist that can absolutely shatter the encryption we all rely on. Things like RSA and ECC, these are the digital locks protecting everything, from your bank account and secure emails to the most sensitive government secrets. And a quantum computer, well, it will have the master key to all of it. And this right here brings us to the single most important reason you cannot afford to wait for Q-Day. Because our adversaries, they're not waiting. They are actively getting ready for it, and that puts your data at risk today. And this is how they're doing it. The concept is called harvest now, decrypt later. Just think about it for a second. An adversary siphons off a massive trove of encrypted data. It could be state secrets, a company's crown jewel intellectual property, or even our personal health records. Today, that data is just gibberish to them. It's useless. But see, they're not trying to decrypt it today. They are hoarding it, just storing it away, patiently waiting for Q-Day to arrive. So if you have any data that needs to stay secret for, say, the next 10 years or more, think company roadmaps, patient data, national security intel, the safety of that data is already at risk, even if the lock hasn't officially been picked yet. Now, if you thought that was scary, this next concept attacks something even more fundamental: trust itself. It's called trust now, forge later. Think about how your computer knows to trust a software update from, say, Apple or Microsoft. It's all because of a digital signature that's basically impossible to fake with today's computers. But on Q-Day, a quantum computer could forge that signature, tricking your device into accepting a malicious update without even a second thought. This doesn't just steal data, it shatters the entire foundation of digital trust that makes the internet actually work. So you can see why the pressure is really starting to mount on organizations from all sides. You've got governments setting hard deadlines for this migration, like the US government's mandate for 2035. You've got customers and business partners who are going to start demanding that their data is quantum safe. And then, internally, you have the simple fact that preparing for this future threat makes you way stronger against today's attacks. The question is no longer why we should do this, but how do we get started?
Okay, so if the answer is just to switch to new quantum-resistant algorithms, why don't we all just do it? Well, the reality is, this is shaping up to be one of the biggest, most complicated infrastructure shifts in the entire history of computing. This is absolutely not a simple software patch.
And this quote just frames the scale of the problem perfectly. A lot of us remember the Y2K bug, right? The panic, the massive effort. Well, this is bigger, way bigger. See, Y2K was about finding and fixing a known problem in specific places. This post-quantum migration, it's about changing the fundamental cryptographic DNA that's woven into every single piece of hardware, software, and network protocol across your entire organization and its whole supply chain. And here's a big reason why it's so complex. The new post-quantum algorithms are just bigger. They're heavier. Look at the key sizes. They're so much larger. It's like trying to shove a giant package through a tiny mail slot. It takes more time, more energy, and that can slow down networks, it can overwhelm older devices or low-power IoT sensors. This isn't just an update. It often requires a complete re-engineering of how things work. And on top of all that, it's kind of a perfect storm of challenges. The final standards for these new algorithms, they're still being finalized, which means all your hardware and software vendors are also playing catch-up. And the compliance rules that govern your industry, yeah, they're not ready yet either. It all points to a massive, multi-year effort that's going to require some serious planning and a serious budget.
Okay, I know. The problem is huge, the challenges are complex. That can feel pretty overwhelming. But here's the good news. There is a clear path forward. So let's walk through the first steps of a really practical readiness playbook. Look, this isn't about boiling the ocean all at once. It's about starting smart. First, this has to come from the top. You need your leadership to really understand this is a strategic business risk, not just some IT project. Second, you can't protect what you don't know you have, right? A full inventory of all your cryptography is absolutely essential. Third, you got to prioritize. What data needs to be protected the longest? Which systems are the most critical? And finally, you build a roadmap to achieve what's called crypto agility, basically the ability to swap out algorithms as needed. This is a marathon, not a sprint. It's going to be a phased migration over many years, not some frantic Big Bang cutover.
Now, just as important as knowing what to do is knowing what not to do. Let's look at some common pitfalls that can waste a ton of time, money, and actually leave you more exposed.
This part is so important. First off, don't panic buy. There's no magic quantum safe box you can just plug in. You have to have a strategy before you buy any tools. Second, do not just assume your cloud provider or software vendors have it all covered. This is a shared responsibility, and you need to understand their plan. And finally, this is maybe the most important one. Don't treat this like it's just another Patch Tuesday. This is a strategic business transformation, and it has to be treated that way.
And here's the real silver lining in all of this. The whole journey to becoming quantum ready forces you to pay down your crypto debt. All the old, weak, or misconfigured encryption that's hiding in your systems. When you go looking for it as part of this process, you will inevitably find and fix vulnerabilities that are a threat to you right now. So you're immediately hardening your defenses against the attacks that are already happening. And this really is the key takeaway. Getting ready for the post-quantum world isn't just about dodging a future bullet. It's a forcing function. It forces you to modernize your security, to clean up all that technical debt, and to build a much more resilient and agile organization for the long haul.
So, we end right back where we started. That super powerful quantum computer might not exist today, but the clock on your most valuable data, it is absolutely counting down. The real question every leader should be asking isn't if they need to act, but how soon they can possibly begin.